Bowlby's theory of maternal deprivation. So it's important that we do not get this confused with Bowlby's monotropic theory. So please make sure you read the exam question carefully, that this is Bowlby's theory of maternal deprivation. So you might see Bowlby's theory of attachment, which is his monotropic theory. Bowlby's maternal deprivation theory is different. So we're going to look at that in a bit more detail. So Bowlby believes that an infant is unable to form a warm, intimate and continuous relationship with its mother or maternal figure when they have had difficulty forming relationships with others and will be at risk of developing behavioural and emotional disorders at a later date. So he is arguing that a mother or a mother figure is highly important in the development behaviourally and emotionally for a child later on in life. So he believes that continued emotional care from the mother is essential for normal emotional and intellectual development. Without that, he argues that it's difficult to grow up as emotionally, intellectually and cognitively developed. Separation from a mother may lead to maternal deprivation. So he states that a mother's love in infancy is important for mental health as vitamins and proteins are for physical health, and separation can lead to maternal deprivation. So when you separate a child from the mother, you are depriving it of an essential factor that is needed for a healthy mental state. He argues that separation is different from deprivation though. Separation means that a child is not being physically in the presence of a primary attachment figure, whereas deprivation is losing an emotional care as a result of separation. And deprivation can be avoided if an alternative emotional care is provided. So, for example, if a mother goes back to work, having a high quality childcare in place so they don't lead to deprivation, or for example, in a care home, if a child is without its biological mother, that is provided with a quality alternative that can provide it with the emotional care that is needed. He argues that there is a critical period of about 30 months. So if a child is separated from their mother without a substitute for an extended period of time during the first 30 months of an infant's life, then psychological damage is unavoidable. And because that is the critical period of when you should form an attachment, it can lead to intellectual underdevelopment, so deprivation lowers IQ. So Goldfarb found that children that were raised in institutions had lower IQs in comparison to children that had been fostered. Also, it can impact on emotional development, in particularly linked to affectionate psychopathy. So a lack of emotional care may also lead to affectionate psychopathy, which is where they are unable to feel guilt or empathy or strong emotions for others, and it prevents a person from developing normal relationships, and it is associated with criminality in later life. So Bowlby's 44 Thieves study. So he wanted to test the maternal deprivation hypothesis. It was a case study was completed on the backgrounds of 44 adolescents who had been referred to a clinic where Bowlby worked and had been stealing, and there was a control group of 44 emotionally disturbed adolescents who didn't steal. Now, families were interviewed to establish any prolonged separation from the mothers, and all thieves were interviewed for signs of affectionate psychopathy, so that lack of affection, guilt, empathy towards others. He found that 17 of the thieves have experienced frequent separations from their mothers before the age of 2, compared with only 2 in the control group. 14 of the thieves were diagnosed as affectionate psychopaths, so they didn't care about others, and 12 out of those 14 had experienced separation from their mothers. So he concluded that depriving a child of its main caregiver early in life can have harmful long-term effects. So prolonged early separation is the cause of affectionate psychopathy. So you might get a question that's outlined Bowlby's theory of maternal deprivation for 3 marks. Okay, so that's very brief. You're going to have to give brief, succinct, concise information about his theory. Moving on to evaluation then. So we've got supporting evidence from Goldfarb. So found that orphan children were socially and maternally deprived were later less intellectually and socially developed, so it impacted on their long-term development. We also have supporting evidence from animal studies, so separating baby rats from their mothers for as little as a day had a permanent effect on their social development. However, we've got some contradictory evidence. So Lewis partially replicated the 44 Thieves studies, looking at 500 young people, and he found that early prolonged maternal deprivation did not predict criminality or difficulty in forming close relationships. So Bowlby might have overemphasised his findings and conclusions. Also, we've got other explanations. So Rutter argues that severe long-term damage is more likely to be a result of privation, not deprivation. So many of the 44 Thieves had moved from home to home during the childhood, so it's that they never formed an attachment in the first place, not that they had been deprived of a maternal figure. However, it has useful real-world applications, so the findings demonstrate the importance of emotional care from a mother figure and implemented on the childcare system. So in particular, like when a child goes into daycare, low staff to child ratios, the importance of a key worker, and is implicated on to care homes, foster homes, and institutions that look after children. Explain one criticism of Bowlby's theory of maternal deprivation for 3 marks. So it's important that you know both strengths and weaknesses of research and you read the questions carefully, because it often give you how many you have to write about. And then we've got discuss Bowlby's theory of maternal deprivation. So remember, discuss is outline and evaluate, 16 marks. So your 6 key AA1 points over probably 2 paragraphs. So I do Bowlby's theory and then his 44 Thieves study as separate paragraphs, and then I'd move on to evaluation of about 3 to 4 evaluation points peeled, and if you can get any issues and debates in there, please do.